What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of? Such big imagination on such a little bug.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan and welcome back to Every Version Ever. Today I'm joined by Sarah and Mark and we're talking about the 90s PBS series Wishbone. Now before we get into this, I will warn you that this started out as an episode on the legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, but it quickly spun off into 90s PBS nostalgia in general. I thought about just keeping it all intact because I figured if you're tuning into an episode about Wishbone, you probably grew up with most of the other stuff we talked about as well. But at some point I realized we probably talked about just as much random PBS stuff as we did Wishbone, so I think I'll give you a choice depending on how much PBS nostalgia you're looking for. On the Every Version Ever podcast, I'll cut down most of the tangents, restricting the discussion to mainly Wishbone, but if you want a huge 90s PBS Kids nostalgia fest, you can go to my main channel, and then if you want a massively tangent-filled episode, both PBS and non-PBS related, I'll have an even more extended version on Patreon. We recorded for 2.5 hours, just to give you an idea of how much has been cut down here. Anyway, this episode started out because Wishbone has been a series I've wanted to cover on the podcast for ages. Wishbone was one of my first big media obsessions as a kid, and is potentially, subconsciously, one of the reasons I love seeing all different kinds of adaptations of literature. And one of my favorite episodes of the show was the Halloween special, Halloween Hound: The Legend of Creepy Callers, or just Wishbone's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. As soon as I decided to do versions of Sleepy Hollow in October, I knew it was finally time to get to Wishbone. Wishbone's version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow has always been one of my favorite versions of the story. It was the version of the story for me growing up, so this was a must. And then when the series evolved into Washington Irving, and not just Sleepy Hollow, I remembered that there was an episode of Wishbone on Rip Van Winkle, so we had to add that. And then just to round things out, one of the most iconic episodes in all our memories was The Time Machine, so I figured we should cover that as well, because it would inevitably come up anyway. Plus, it was kind of creepy, so it kind of fits in with the October vibes. So if you are just here for Wishbone, the version on the Every Version Ever podcast is what you'll want. And if you're like us and grew up with all things PBS, check out my main channel. I'll make sure everything goes up everywhere at the same time, so I'll have links in the description for whichever version you prefer.
What's the story, Wishbone?
I've wanted to do Wishbone for the podcast for ages. Like, Wishbone was probably my first media obsession when I was a kid. I was obsessed with Wishbone. I taped every episode that I could. Like, I taped it even when I was like, I had most of them. I just kept taping it, hoping to get the last episodes that I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
There might have been one or two that I never did catch, because you could never predict when they were on, because it's just kind of random. But I was obsessed with Wishbone. It was my absolute favorite show. It could have been my second obsession, because I was also obsessed with Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, but Wishbone was...
That was good.
Wishbone was like even more of an obsession, because I wanted to collect every episode on VHS.
You're taking us back. I haven't thought about Carmen Sandiego in a while.
So funny enough, even though I was a big PBS fan, and that was pretty much all I watched, and I watched almost all the shows on PBS, Wishbone was one I did not actually watch. I think when I was younger, my parents were more strict about live action stuff, so like I could get away with like Big Comfy Couch, but I feel they didn't push me to watch Wishbone, and I guess I never gravitated towards it. So I never I don't think I ever seen a full episode of Wishbone, but I was aware enough of the concept, and I've seen scenes here and there, so I knew enough about the point of Wishbone. But before watching these 3 episodes for today's podcast, I had never seen a full entire episode of Wishbone.
Wow. No, this is like, of all the things that I don't know about
the
world and media, this was definitely one of the childhood things.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I think I recognized all of these episodes, and yeah, no, Wishbone's total nostalgia, but then now watching it as an adult is a different perspective. So we'll get into that.
Well, you had said, I thought you had watched the Time Machine episode, hadn't you?
So, so that was the only episode I feel I don't even know if I watched the entire thing, but for some reason I know I saw a piece of it because I remember the Morlocks. They scared the heck out of me.
Okay, I'm not alone, because that was like one of the scariest things that I saw in childhood, and I saw adult scary things as a child, but this as a kids program, dang, those were gnarlies.
Yes, those Morlocks, I don't know, like that's true horror right there.
With the
I don't know
darkness
who-
and the noises and coming at you in that creepy little ape walk or whatever.
Exactly, yes. So that's the only thing I remember. So I don't remember for sure if I actually saw that entire episode or I just watched the scene and then I got
That's
scared.
all
but
you need to
I just remember
remember
being
from
frightened
that
of that.
Anyway,
Exactly.
so, or I guess we could start with that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Speaking of which,
That was one, like, technically we're recording this as part of my Washington Irving series, but I wanted to do Time Machine because that was like one of the iconic ones.
Really, that's one of the most memorable episodes to
Yeah,
me.
like that,
well, me too, for bad reasons.
like the Time Machine is one that I think it's burned into everybody's brain, probably because of the Morlocks. But like
Yeah.
when I was a kid, like I read the Time Machine as a kid, and I liked the Time Machine, so I liked this episode.
Which is good. But I remembered more than that. Like, once we started watching it, I remembered the plot line with the math homework to a good extent, and I remembered, what was her name?
Which person?
The vapid character,
Oh, Weena.
Weena. Weena. And I remembered that funky, like, the pretty flower. I guess maybe that's because I like flowers, but it just, I think, yeah, that stuck out to me as a child. But I didn't remember how dumb she was. It didn't register in my innocent little brain. I think, yeah, it's like, why is the really good-looking person who's obviously has some virtue, why is that person dumb in this world?
It's part of the plot of the book that basically people have completely gotten away from education. Like they go to a library which is in ruins.
I feel like I remembered the book crumbling part. Yeah, there were all these things that I remembered. I did not remember, like, it didn't register to me as a child just how stinking cute Wishbone was. And him and his little time machine, and oh my word, that just killed me in the Rip Van Winkle episode, how cute he was. So different perspective as dog owner and everything, but that's like a dream job for a little dog like that. If you have a nice owner who teaches you all of the things and you have this wonderful working job as an actor and you probably get all kinds of treats. Like I feel
Yeah,
I feel
what other dog actor had a gig that good?
I feel like this was just a wonderful period in this dog's life. I don't think I'm wrong.
No. Dog's name was Soccer, apparently.
Yeah.
Ah, bless its little heart. Why don't we have a little dog here for this episode?
I had a stuffed Wishbone at one point. It's probably still around somewhere in a box.
All right, he becomes a scavenger hunt now. Go find it.
He does have a baby Yoda nearby, but it's not the same. Anyway, do we want to say anything else about this episode?
Well, I wanted to talk about the cast too, because like for the most part, a lot of these people, this was like their only big role. Like they did a few other things.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Wall as Joe, this was his only major role. He only had like little roles after this, and his last role was in 2002. And his friend Sam, her last role was in 2011. And David, his last role was in 2001. And according to IMDb, he now works at a hospital. So that was the only one that had anything about somebody currently.
Well, God bless the cast. Wherever they are, I hope they have good lives.
So one question I had, but you guys will be able to tell me, is I guess I kind of assumed that the cast would be the ones acting in like the in the literary recreation scenes, but at least in these 3 episodes, that wasn't the case. Do you know if they appear in other episodes, like as characters in this?
Not usually. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head was the kid who played DeMont. I believe he played the Artful Dodger in the Oliver Twist episode,
Okay.
which I have not seen in years, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was the case. That's the only one that really sticks out. I don't think there was any others. I could be wrong.
I feel if I was an actor, I would feel kind of gypped that the only scenes I'm in are the current contemporary scenes, and like I'd want to do something in the literary recreation scenes. I don't need lines, but at least put
you in the costume.
Exactly.
I didn't write down anybody because a lot of them were just like bit part actors, but I think they had a cast for all of the stories, because I know that I recognized some of the faces as people who would be in multiple episodes.
Oh, okay.
So I think there was a recurring cast for the stories.
I think I read online it was like the local Dallas acting scene. Like that's where they would get all these most of the actors from.
Mm,
do you do any historical recreation or anything?
Me, no.
Well, maybe you should. If you're feeling like scene envy here.
There we go. Except it has to be literary scene envy, so I need to recreate literary historical stuff.
See, like the Jane Austen people, but that's probably not your scene.
Maybe well, I think Sherlock Holmes has his own people too. It's all taken.
Well, if you just find some, then you have the excuse. Not that you need an excuse. I mean, hang it. If you want to dress up in whatever, and
you're right.
Go buy lettuce. It's your life.
Okay, now that's going too far.
No, it's not. If you want to dress up as Sherlock and go buy iceberg, it's okay.
All right, there you have it, folks. This was your sign.
Well, a couple things that I wanted to make note of at the cast was Angie Hughes as Wanda Gilmore. She's still acting today, but like for, I think, most of her entire career, it's mostly minor roles. And nothing really jumped out as something that I would have seen, except I remember as a kid watching a movie called Blank Check at my grandparents' house.
I've seen Blank Check, yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I watched the whole thing, but I remembered a scene that had her... They were like in a parking lot or something. I was like, that's Wanda from Wishbone.
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Yeah, I've watched that for my blog, yeah.
But that's like the only thing that I remember about Blank Check was that Wanda from Wishbone was in it.
Mm-hmm.
That might warm her heart.
It's not a really good movie, so that makes sense.
And then the guy who played Wishbone's voice, he's semi-prolific, but mostly minor roles. He does a lot of voice acting. It looked like his most notable voice role that I maybe recognized was someone named Spinner in My Hero Academia. He does a lot of anime.
What's his name?
Oh, okay.
Larry Brantley.
Okay.
And I don't remember which character Spinner is. I've seen the My Hero Academia movies, but I haven't watched the series. So I'm not a My Hero Academia expert.
I know nothing about it myself. So you're one up on us.
But then one thing that I found in research that I thought was interesting, the kid who played DeMont, Joe Duffield, was the son of the creator of Wishbone.
Nice, good old nepotism.
And who was the creator?
Rick Duffield. And this is...
Mr. Duffield.
Yeah, and this was his only real big credit for anything that I could find. So his claim to fame was creating Wishbone.
When you got a good idea, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
When I watched this show in childhood, DeMont was so grown up.
I mean, I thought they all were.
And then watching it again, even the second season when they were 2 years older, and then DeMont comes on the scene, it's like, that's how old you were.
So, which one is DeMont again?
The bully kid.
Okay. Yes.
Which he does mature at some point in the series, but...
Toward the end, yeah. And I mean, we'll get to it eventually, but I wanted to make sure to mention that I also thought it was funny, and this will only mean something probably to you and me, but the kid who played DeMont's cousin, Jared Christine, he played Tiny Tim in the 1997 animated A Christmas Carol. Oh,
I love him now. I wish I knew that before. I'd have liked that episode much more. Oh, God bless that kid.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Oh, I didn't even realize it. Hey, I'm Woody. I didn't even know that. Wow.
No, I saw that and I was like, okay, I've got to mention that.
Well, thank you. You just made my night. One thing I found interesting was the actor who played Joe in his mother. They have the same last name, but they're not related.
When I was a kid, I thought they were actually literally mother and son.
They look like they
yeah.
could be.
I was kind of shocked as a grown up to realize they were not. So it's like my whole life I believed that it was a mother and son playing a mother and son.
Because I feel like even the name Wall, that's not a very common surname, is it?
Not that
I haven't
know
heard
of.
it before. Yeah.
I can only think of two right off the top of my head. It's the two people from
Those
this
two.
show.
Same.
So did they ever explain in the episodes what happened to his dad?
I don't remember for sure. I think he died of, was it a heart thing? I don't remember.
I think I read it on the IMDb page that he died. That was either cancer or something. Like
He had a disease and he died when Joe was 6, I believe. But
So,
his dad was a basketball coach, which is why Joe is so into basketball.
I wonder why they chose to have that as, I don't know, maybe to help relate to kids who've lost a parent. I don't know.
Probably. That's usually why they make a choice like that, to help different kids relate to different characters.
Sure.
one thing about this time machine episode that when he goes in the future, he goes, to the year 804,000, whatever. So it actually made me think. It's like, I wonder what's the furthest in the future any movie has ever portrayed, that has ever taken place. And I was looking it up, and I think the time machine, the movies, they actually win that award because it's 804,000 something 80. And I don't think any other movie has been portrayed to be taking place after that.
I hope for much better things for that year.
The only thing I can think of is Doctor Who, but that's not a movie, so.
That goes further than that.
He goes to like the end of the universe when all the stars in the universe are dying.
Is that after 800?
It's like trillions of years in the future or whatever. I don't remember
Okay.
Well,
year
there's
that
a
they say.
cheerful little
There you go.
nugget there. Oh, nuggets would be good. Anyway,
I bought nuggets today.
you did.
Anyway,
Ooh.
Hershey nuggets. Anyway.
Oh, different nuggets. Do they have
different
nuts in
nuggets.
them?
No, I like mine plain chocolate.
Well, suit yourself. Anything else about the time machine?
I guess overall I liked the episode. It reminded me a lot of the movie, the one from 1960, but I guess maybe that's because it's very, I assume, very closely based on the book. I haven't read the book in a long time, so I can't remember. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing Wishbone as the traveler, and the Morlocks. They're still creepy, frightening, and
Thankfully, they were not as creepy to me as an adult. I don't know how much they even creeped me out as an adult, so that's good. That's very. There are plenty of other things that can creep me out in life. If those want to not be as horrible now, that's good.
I distinctly remember going out in my neighborhood at night after at night, and looking behind a tree and thinking, "Oh, I wonder if there's a Morlock there." That was frightening.
Yeah, and you don't even have to really believe it, but if you just imagine it, that's bad
Exactly.
enough. Little rustling leaves.
I think even the Morlocks in the Great Illustrated Classics version that we read, Jonathan, I think there were even there they were illustrated very
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, they were creepy.
Yeah.
They didn't scare me like the illustrations from War of the Worlds did, or Hound of
Okay.
the Baskervilles. That one was the most terrifying.
For me, it was Dorian Gray. That was the terrifying illustration to me.
I don't think I had that one. I don't remember that one at all.
That's right. That was the only book that ever frightened me.
Which Dorian Gray?
A picture of Dorian Gray.
I know the title, but I don't know what it's about because I never had that one.
Tell us more.
It's about a man. From what I remember, it's about a man who he's rich and aristocratic, and
Right.
he wants to live forever. So he has a portrait of himself painted, and he puts it in his attic. And as the years go by, he actually doesn't age, but unbeknownst to him, or maybe beknownst to him, I can't remember if he actually knows this or not. But the portrait up in his attic actually ages, and the more he gets older, the more evil stuff he does, the picture grows more old and more disgusting to look at. So there's an illustration there in the Great Illustrated Classics version of that where you see the painting at like the end, and it's like, I think that frightened me.
Is it like a mirror of his soul or something?
Yeah, essentially.
Interesting.
I won't say how it ends, but yeah, that's the
Um,
gist of this.
Ah.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have that one.
Yeah, I probably didn't need to see that as a. But then I do stuff growing up, like maybe watch Secrets of the Dead or something. It's like, why? Yeah, Sarah, you like history, but really? Anyway,
Exactly.
I wonder why I'm frightened by emaciated beings. I couldn't be from the World War II and Secrets of the Dead type stuff that I was. Yeah, anyway.
Nah.
No, not connected at all.
No.
No.
Not at all. Nah. Child's play.
Ah, the 1980s Christmas Carol with those kids under the robe. Anyway.
Oh, that's the George C. Scott one?
Yes, you win the prize.
Oh, thanks.
So anything else about the time machine?
Whoa. Well, the contemporary story in this one was when Joe had the math test, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. I think the only thing that stood out to me was just like, I feel nowadays I feel there's even less push for kids to not use calculators in math classes, but I don't know. I haven't been in school in a long time, so I can't say for sure.
Anybody want to comment on that? They can.
Yes, let me know in the comments. Some angry parents or something.
I don't know. We had, at a certain point, we were given calculators, but that was only like when algebra came around. Before that, I think we were made to learn without it.
I don't know how much anybody gave me a calculator, and I probably could have used it.
I know I used it in in college. I can't remember high school and middle school what the policy was. But yeah, time machine calculators just connected.
One thing that I don't know if this, like, the thing at the end where he's helping Wanda with her yard sale, and like he's having trouble because everybody's telling him like this is 10% off, this is 20%
Yeah.
off. I was like, why is Wanda selling things for percentages off at a yard sale? Just sell it for $2.
Exactly. Just put the price on it.
Maybe it was the second day of the sale, and it's time to move stuff along. I never thought of that, but I did remember the sale, like him being some memory of the sale. Anyway.
So who is Wanda in this series? She's just like a neighbor.
Jonathan's favorite character. That's who Wanda is.
No, okay, I see. I should have guessed.
Just eccentric neighbor who's convenient for adding pizzazz to the plot line.
Yeah.
Nice.
I always like the weird characters, so she was always my favorite character.
Nice.
Another thing that I distinctly remembered from this episode was at the beginning, and then also at the end, when Wishbone is being given his ginger snap treats, and he thinks that Ellen has eaten one.
Well, she did, didn't she?
I don't think so. I think he just saw her chewing something. And
No,
just
I think she ate one. I think she ate one.
I just thought that he was assuming things.
I mean, yeah, they never, told us for sure, but
this was a very memorable episode. Like, as far as remembering episodes of Wishbone from childhood, this is definitely one of the top ones, if not the top one.
It's also interesting how starkly different the atmosphere is between the contemporary story and the literary story. Like, one, we have Morlocks scaring the living daylights out of me. The other one is math homework, doing percentages.
Probably helps to enhance the imaginary aspect of...
I guess to some people, math homework is like Morlocks in their life, so I don't know.
Yeah. Not as bad, but somewhere in there maybe.
I also hadn't remembered how little of the time machine was in this episode, which kind of makes sense because, like, even though I read it as a kid, it's not a kid's book. And, like, they're not going to explain what the deal is with the Morlocks in a children's show. But I still kind of felt like when I was watching, I was like, is this really all there was?
Do you want to explain a little bit more of the plot line of the time machine, or is that going to get us into like 1 a.m. recording session?
It did feel very short, but I just put that to, it's a half-hour show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not expecting there to be a lot more.
Yeah.
But like when we move on to Rip Van Winkle, you basically get the whole story of Rip Van Winkle. But with the time machine, it's like so abridged. Like he gets to the future, his time machine disappears, they find it, and he goes back home.
Yeah.
But there's like so much more that happens in the book than just that. It's like they took.
Yeah, I think the 1960 movie is like 2 hours long.
Another one that was really memorable to me that we didn't watch was The Phantom of the Opera.
Oh,
does he play the Phantom?
No,
was he Raoul?
I think he was. Yeah,
Who
He's
played
Raoul,
the Phantom? I don't remember. That one's been so
Some
long
dude.
since I've seen that one.
I don't know. Demont? No. No, I don't think so. I guess I was asking, did you want to elaborate more on the plot line of the time machine, but you don't have to.
Well, the time machine it's kind of like speculative fiction, like an imagination of what the future might be like, and it's like a dystopian fiction, but it's also, I think it's supposed to be like an allegory between like classes, because in the future, the Morlocks and the LOE, which is what Weena is, they're both humans, but they like evolved in two completely different ways, and it's supposed to be like the upper class and the lower class, and the LOE were the upper class, and the Morlocks were the lower class, and now the Morlocks farm the LOE for food.
Interesting.
But they're still the lower class?
Yeah, like literally, because they live underground.
Okay.
Like obviously I didn't get that as a kid. I just liked the story. I thought it was exciting and scary, but the good, exciting, scary. I didn't realize that there was a whole allegory for class warfare going on.
Yeah, nice and dark there. Okay.
But then there's a whole other thing that they never went into, where he goes even further in the future, and there's like giant crabs populating the planet, which I always thought was
that's like
such a
3
cool,
million something years in the future.
Yeah, I remember as a kid I thought that was such a cool idea, and I wanted Wishbone to do the giant crabs.
All the humans are gone. It's just the giant crabs.
Okay.
There we go. There's our homework. Go read the time machine.
I think not.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose we can move on to the original point of this episode, which is talk about the works of Washington Irving.
Oh, yes. That was just like a little extra we threw in.
It's an extra half hour of listening pleasure for...
Half hour?
I don't know how long it's been.
I mean, I've wanted to do Wishbone for a while, and I knew that one of the main things that I wanted to do was talk about the time machine, because it was such an iconic episode. So even though this was technically supposed to be part of the Washington Irving series, I wanted to do time machine. Because eventually I would like to do time machine for every version ever, but I don't have any immediate plans, so I'm just doing one of them early.
It's interesting. There have only been 2 theatrical time machine movies.
Yeah, for some reason I thought there were more, and then I was looking it up the other day. I was like, "There's only 2," and then
like
a
TV films
movie?
Or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought
Nobody
that was
made a
strange.
ballet or anything about it.
The Time Machine, the musical.
Yeah, I know.
They made War of the Worlds into a musical, so they could do Time Machine.
That's true.
You can't.
I would like a good Time Machine remake movie.
You missed it. You missed the look on my face after he said that out loud. It's like,
I actually love the music from that show.
it's probably
The War of the Worlds.
it's probably better than some versions.
It's like electronic orchestral. There's a version where Liam Neeson narrates the whole thing.
Oh, hello. He has such a wonderful voice. Yeah, you can talk to me about the end of the world.
I'll listen.
Oh man, Liam Neeson narrating the end of the age. Like, read read some of the chapters of Revelation in Liam Neeson's voice. That would just be... Oh, man, this is like a tiny fantasy now. Like... Anyway.
That's his next gig now, I guess. Anyway.
Liam, if you hear this...
He will find you.
Please do. That could actually be soothing and inspiring.
Sure.
Anyway.
So, Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle.
Probably the cutest version ever.
Probably.
I don't think, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen another, like, I know the story, Rip Van Winkle. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen another film adaptation of it.
I was trying to think of that the other
one.
day, too, and I don't know that I have. I think this might have been my only exposure to Rip Van Winkle, because I was looking through the list to see which ones I would want to do, thinking that there had to have been something else that I'd seen. And maybe there was like an animated thing at some point, but I couldn't find one that looked familiar.
Now that you're making me think about it, it's like I don't know if anybody ever read that to us as kids. So they probably did us a big favor, because this was probably our introduction period to it. Because later on, I remember, I think it's Nutmeg Tavern. I don't know if you're familiar with Townsend's on YouTube. He read the story on like a live stream, but I probably knew it because of Wishbone. Thank you, Wishbone.
I think I knew it mostly just because of like parody episodes of different shows. Like, I remember Garfield had a Rip Van Winkle-esque episode.
Wow.
I just feel it's one of those stories you just kind of know.
Kind of, yeah. But
Like
I think
Hansel.
part of that is from Wishbone for me.
Like Hansel and Gretel and whatever
Fair
else.
enough.
What was the plot line that went with this one?
The Real World?
Yeah, the real world. Which
They met the lady who went back to the town after like
Dr.
50
Brown.
years or something. Dr. Brown.
quick little practically irrelevant side note. She, on the Hallmark movie The Love Letter from the 90s, she was the housekeeper. The fight,
Nice.
yeah, the spunky housekeeper. And I don't think I've seen her on anything else, but
There we go.
I think that was her.
I think you're right. I scrolled through her IMDb page and I remember a Hallmark thing, and there was an episode of Touched by an Angel. And I don't know that if I've seen the episode that she was on, but I watched a lot of Touched by an Angel as a kid, so I would assume that I've seen her in other things, because she did a lot of like one episode here and there of stuff. So
did anybody notice watching these just what a good, like, yeah, he's learning life lessons or whatever, but Joe's just such a good, wholesome kid.
I kind of got that because I was kind of expecting like maybe a smart aleck kid or something, but they kind of wrote, based on just the 3 episodes I've seen, they wrote him overall as he's a good son, he's a good friend, he's a good student, he's just a good guy all around.
It's like, sure, he has his awkward moments or his difficulties or maybe wanting to fudge a little here and there, but it's just normal life, growing up stuff. Let's make a note of the fact that Washington Irving actually made a story where it starts out before the revolution and contrasts it with afterwards.
mm-hmm.
I don't know how much that has happened, probably way more than I realize. But
I can't think of any that I've read.
But in this package, it's an interesting concept, and they didn't really go into. They made it very sweet. They didn't go into how Rip was
henpecked.
Yeah, and the slacker, but
only at his house, because like they mentioned it a little bit in the show, like he would help other ladies with stuff their husbands wouldn't do, but then he didn't want to go home and do his own chores.
It was.
I know some people like that.
It doesn't seem like it was a healthy relationship, and it was like she was conveniently killed off while he's off sleeping on the mountain.
He probably enjoyed that. She's like, oh, thank God.
I thought it was kind of funny when he goes up into the mountains, which is the Catskills Mountains. He points out the name, and I thought he was going to do the, like, because dogs hate cats, it was like cats kill. But he says, cats do not have skills. And I was like, okay, they went for a nicer joke.
Actually, the cat's kill actually didn't even cross my mind.
No, our brains were innocent on that one.
Yeah. I thought cat skills as
I
well.
became like instantly defensive of cats in my brain, but it kind of is resolved in the next episode where he's being outwitted by the cat. Oh my word. I just want to point out one of the most adorable things was him pushing that barrel up the mountain. Did you notice his tail wagging as he was doing that? And it just kept going with him pushing that barrel up the mountain. It was just, just animal lovers, eat your heart out. Like, I'm working, I'm pushing up the barrel like they taught me how to push the barrel up. It's so much fun. And his little costume and everything. Man, his little...
It was method acting.
His little musket. And, oh, my word. And him in that beard with the leaves. Dang it. So stinking cute.
And there were multiple times when because we watched this together, she was just going off at
Geeking
how
out.
cute he was doing
Nice.
different things.
Oh, man. Someday maybe I'll get me a cute little dog. Which I will not train as well as that dog. If it's relatively well behaved and super happy, then I'll be, that's
You
good.
could film your own little literary stories around him.
That sounds like a homeschooler household. Yeah. And now the dog's in this outfit and we're going to act. That sounds cozy, man.
It reminds me of that Sesame Street segments they used to have with the dogs that were dressed up.
I forgot about those.
Don't remember
Yeah.
that. I remember there was one with a song and this little girl and that she was out throwing the ball on the beach with this dog and I feel like, yeah.
I feel no one's going to remember that except us three.
Why am I not remembering what you're talking? Oh, wait! Like with the human hands?
Yeah.
Yes, with the human hands.
Oh, okay. And they were like, what kind of dog am I trying to think of?
Were they Dalmatian? No.
No, I feel like they were gray. Weren't they? Like short hair, big dogs.
I haven't thought about it in like...
That was
25 years
that
plus,
was
probably.
locked away in the yeah. No.
These podcasts, they just open up a different door in our...
Thank you for opening that
memory.
up. That was not vital for survival, but fun to trot out again.
I have the not vital for survival section of my brain.
That's probably a large section of
It's
our
most of
brains.
it.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
collecting receipts or something. It's like, okay, stuff that in the pocket of your brain. It's not. Anyway.
Anyway. I think the only thing I didn't know about Rip Van Winkle, the story, was the ghosts that he meets and play, and the ones that bowl and actually give him, well, I guess they don't give him the drink, but he drinks their drink and falls asleep.
Which
I guess
was
I just kind of assumed he fell asleep.
Which was cute. Him over there
Yes.
opening up the little spigot.
Sure.
Aw.
Probably what I was thinking as well.
I wonder, like, for the longest time, I've just thought that he met giants in the mountains. And I'm wondering if it's because I watched this and these people are so much bigger than Wishbone.
Yeah, weren't they supposed to be kind of small or no? What am I thinking of, or should be thinking of? Also,
Lilliputians?
also, brief note: they didn't actually call it bowling, did they, in the book? Or did they?
I think it was 3 bowls or
Did
something.
they call it 9 pins or something? Maybe
I
they
know
did
call
refer to it
9
as
pins, but
bowling.
I don't remember it was bowling.
But I feel like
find
they
the
were.
passage.
It seemed like they were trying to make it more understandable or something in this episode, but maybe I'm just making that up. Jonathan's looking. He's got the book out.
They just called it 9 pins. I didn't see them mention
Okay, so-
bowling.
So I was right. 9 pins.
Yeah,
But so did they call it bowling at all? You didn't see bowling.
I didn't see bowling in the passage. The passage is only like 1 page long, so
Okay, so yay me. I don't
Bravo.
know how relevant that is, but this is a podcast where it's allowed. It's allowed to talk about, yeah, pick over those little things.
We don't neglect the what's the word, Picayune in this podcast. But I did get a Giants vibe as well from these characters.
Oh,
but
sure.
It could be like you said, Jonathan, just because they're so much bigger than him. But I don't know. I felt they were Giants too.
I think that the fact that they shot everything from his point of view, which they don't always do, because a lot of times they'll shoot like the humans on a human level, but it really felt like they were pointing the camera up a lot.
They may have been trying to create more of the magical supernatural feel with the up angle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Probably.
They did a good job with this episode.
Yeah. And even the like live action, or not live action, real world stuff, like I remembered a lot of the stuff with Dr. Brown, like the part where she's going through their house and showing Joe the secret hiding place in his room. And it made me wonder if that's why I now really want a secret hiding place. Like, that's something I've felt like for my whole life. I've wanted a house with secret hiding places. And I'm like, did that come from this episode?
Did Wishbone do Joan of Arc?
Yes. Bone of Arc.
Man, they just didn't shy away.
One thing I'm surprised, apparently, I think they said only like a few episodes of the show have actually been released on DVD, even up till now.
Yeah, I don't think that they were, or not very many. I know that they released some VHSs, but I don't know that they did a DVD release.
Because apparently the show had like good ratings and stuff, but they only did 2 seasons.
Yeah, that surprised me. It was like, really? Only 2 seasons? And this was like...
I wonder if it's just expensive to do like the periods.
It's just like
scenes.
Childhood staple and only 2 seasons?
Yeah.
No. Well, the first season, I believe, had 40 episodes.
40 episodes, yeah.
And the second season only had 10. So there were 50 episodes in total.
Which is, fair paces to be putting a little dog through.
Yeah. But for as obsessed as I was, for as long as it was, you'd think there would have been more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Jonathan said, they basically included the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really nice.
I mean, Rip Van Winkle is a very short story anyway, so it wasn't as hard as some of the others.
Time machine.
Yeah.
It's a feel good episode. Like it's a happy ending for him that he didn't have to go back to the library and that he could just have a live person to interview for his report that he needed to do for school.
I think the only thing that stood out to me as a little too perfect was the fact that this lady that they just met at the library just happens to have lived in the same house that they lived in. That was a little suspicious.
I thought there were a lot of coincidences in this episode. Like, towards the end when Wanda accidentally spears the not time travel, the time capsule with her flamingo. It's like, has she just never tried to put a flamingo there before?
That would probably be the biggest coincidence right there. But life is weird enough for the lady to show up and have it be her house.
Yeah, there were a lot of coincidences, but I didn't care.
In defense of coincidences. Besides, I've got to fit it into the episode somehow.
Is that a line from something?
No, it must have just been my delivery.
It sounds
very proper.
No, it reminds me of a line from something, and now I can't think of what it is. Great Muppet Caper. It's exposition. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's plot exposition. It's got to go somewhere. What are you doing here? A very brief cameo. Me too.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. So I can't remember the line.
That's like my favorite Muppet movie.
Maybe it's time to revisit it.
Well, we could move on to Halloween Hound, The Legend of Creepy Colors.
Is that what it was called? I didn't even know what it was called.
I remembered that being the title, but it didn't show up on screen. So maybe it was the fact that maybe it aired as a special with that title, because I remembered that being the title. Because this one, I feel like this is one of the episodes of Wishbone that I remember the most, because I think this was the first episode back from the hiatus. I mean, they played repeats all the time, But the fact that they were making new episodes of Wishbone was a huge deal. And this was the first one back, and I remember taping it and watching it over and over and over again. Like, there was so much of this that was just like, I could almost quote it along with it, like all of the clues in the treasure hunt that they were going on.
I feel like I vaguely remember those little pumpkins.
Yeah. There was so much in here that was just like an iconic childhood memory.
I wonder how the writer or the producer's son ended up being the bully on this show.
I don't know.
His father knew. He's like, I know what role would fit you best. Dad, come on.
You want to get on here and act ornery? Okay, Dad. We're not going to make you Little Lord Fauntleroy here.
Yeah, this episode was like you said, the first episode of the second season. So it made me realize, like, oh wow, Joe's tall
and smelly,
and smelly, apparently.
Yeah, all the stuff with his socks, I remembered all of that. I think this was my introduction to the concept of people who play sports being superstitious about things and not washing socks.
Oh,
is that widespread?
I mean, I've heard it since then. Lots of other people do it. So, but I think this is like my introduction to that concept. I don't think I knew about that before this episode. So it's educational in many ways.
Oh, okay.
And
this one was also an hour long, right?
Yeah.
Or 50 minutes or something.
It was an hour-long special when it aired. So I don't remember the run time of without any breaks or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was roughly an hour.
You really enjoyed Wanda on this episode.
That was another part that I probably could have just quoted right along with her. I didn't at the time. The welcome to the house of Wanda. Wanda, what the future holds? Then boy howdy, have you come to the right place. Let's fire up the crystal ball. Vroom, 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 vroom. You are going to be very successful gathering candy tonight.
And their fortune was starting now. So what did you think of the plot line on this one?
I loved this story. I remember this more for the real world stuff than for Sleepy Hollow, but I also think that this was my introduction to the story of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay.
I vaguely remember watching The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney version, once when I was a kid.
One thing that they can't really communicate with this version of it is that Ichabod was supposed to be homely. And Wishbone's just so dang cute, but they did give him that funny little voice.
I was just going to say, they did the best with the voice, with them doing the high squeaky voice.
That's how they made up for it.
So how did you feel about the plot line, Mark?
The whole contemporary scene with the treasure hunt or scavenger hunt, I guess, was probably more interesting to me than the Sleepy Hollow scene. But again, I wasn't super into either, I would say.
Sure, because you don't have the nostalgia factor to go with it.
I think that's my issue with Wishbone right now.
They made it work with the story, but they did a pretty good job making Brahm look like a jerk.
He had those Gaston vibes.
But they didn't really do a good job showing what a jerk Ichabod really was, because he was a gold digger. They sort of did, but him wanting to go eat at the farm and marry into the farm just ends up looking more
noble.
More innocent and and you've got the cute factor than it would in the story.
I guess they can't really make Wishbone play seem incredibly despicable.
I'm now having read the book, I'm kind of confused as to what exactly Washington Irving was trying to go for with Ichabod, because it's, at least to me, it's very clear that he is a gold digger. He wants Katrina for her money more than for Katrina. But there are other passages in the book where it talks about how nice he is. It talks about how kind he is. But then there's the thing about he definitely was not one to spare the rod and spoil the child. So he's like a mess of contradictions.
Like a human.
He's a human, yes. It's deep. We all have our flaws, but we're all
Like,
on the same
I'm
track.
gonna punch this person, but rescue the butterfly over here. You know, that's such a human. I'm sacrificial, but I'm looking out for number one. Yeah, very, very, humans.
Well, like Rip Van Winkle, we said, he won't do any chores at home, but he'll help out the neighborhood.
That's true. I guess Washington Irving was good at writing humans.
I wonder
Yeah.
if he would have done more at home if she'd been nicer about it.
Yeah,
Maybe it started
that'd help.
early. I don't know.
I think one thing that I didn't realize, or like it took me a while to remember, was when Wishbone was, Ichabod Crane, and there was a scene where he was talking, I think with Brom Bones, and it took me a while to realize, oh wait, that is Wishbone's the one who's actually saying all this. I guess because I was kind of expecting his mouth to move, even though, that didn't happen in the last two episodes, but there was just something about that. It took me a while to realize, oh, it's not someone else who's talking off camera. This is actually Wishbone talking.
I guess he does have a much more different voice for this one, because a lot of times he just talks in his normal voice. This one he really was putting on a voice for this character.
I think the Time Machine, he had like a somewhat wannabe English accent too, but this one I think was much more.
You don't have to look this up or answer this or anything, but do you remember whether Brom said something like, I thought I would grace you with my company or honor you with my company or something? Like, that was the most arrogant thing that happened on this episode. Other than that, he was mostly just annoyed at Ichabod and figuring out how to freak him out.
I think he did say something along those lines in the show.
Like, I
It
mean,
sounds
like in the
familiar.
book.
Oh, in the book.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess no. The book, this episode was, like, yes, it was the story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. They got the beats there, but there was a lot that was different. Like, they added to it, they changed things. Like, especially, like, at the party, I don't think there was anything about bobbing for apples, and Brom Bones doesn't want to bob for apples, and he goes off to dance. And then, like, the part where they're doing the ghost stories, like, in the book, like, it's been a couple weeks since I actually read the book, so I don't fully remember for absolute sure, but I'm pretty sure that it's Brom who... No, he does, because they're talking about, what's his name, the old man who saw the Headless Horseman, and he chased him, and he got to the bridge, and then there was a clap of thunder and a bolt of lightning or something, and the Headless Horseman, like, leaped over the treetops. And then Brom chimes in that, yeah, he saw him too, he beat him to the bridge, because Brom is, like, trying to really lay this on thick so that Ichabod gets it into his head that he can escape the horseman if he gets to this bridge, because, like, they never say absolute for sure, but it's, like, extremely heavily implied that the Headless Horseman is Brom Bones trying to run Ichabod out of town.
Right.
But they don't do that in the Wishbone version. Like, there's the thing, like, the camera zooms in on Brom's horse's collar thing, like, implying that maybe he was the Headless Horseman, but they don't, like, lay any of the groundwork for that, because Brom doesn't partake in the ghost stories. He says it's dumb. He leaves to go dance. So I feel like they changed a bunch of things. And the part with the poltergeist at the school, in the book, he thinks that witches had a party or something at the school. There was no talk of a poltergeist. So, like, yes.
Was it implied, pardon me, that Brom had messed up the schoolhouse?
Brom and his cronies, like, tore up the schoolhouse.
Yeah. Awkward. But no, in this one, if it was done with people rather than Wishbone, it would almost look like, oh, was he done in? But, yeah.
But yeah, they like, obviously they got the beats of the story correct, but, like, the small details, I was kind of surprised at how many changes that they made. Like, and it's obviously been years since I've watched a whole lot of Wishbone, so maybe that's the case in other things too. But, like, having just watched Rip Van Winkle, when they, like, obviously it's abridged, but the stuff that they did put in was directly from the book. So I just found it kind of odd that there were so many little changes in Sleepy Hollow.
It reminded me. It reminded me of the Disney version. Like, it didn't seem that much different than the Disney version, except maybe just shorter. So they cut whatever they could for time. But like, again, I haven't read. Actually, I don't know if I've ever read Sleepy Hollow, so I can't really say from the book how how it is comparatively.
I feel like they read the whole thing on the Live in Nutmeg Tavern Townsend's channel on YouTube. So if you ever want to listen to it rather than read it, you could probably look at it.
I mean, technically, that's how I did it too, because I was doing something and I'm playing Sleepy Hollow, but then I've been referencing the book as I've watched different versions. So
I've only listened to a book once, and I don't think I could do it again.
Well,
it's not for me.
Maybe you had a bad reader, because it's like they're not created equal.
Yeah, that's true.
Could be.
If you get a good narrator, then that's the way to go for some things. Like, that's the only way that I got through Lord of the Rings. I could not, for the life of me, get through Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
physically.
maybe that's what I have to do, because I tried reading it and I couldn't either.
Do I win a prize? Because I got through the trilogy and The Hobbit probably like twice.
Wow.
And
Yes, you do win a prize.
and one time, the second time was me reading it out loud to my sister. So
Yeah, I tried reading it, and it's one of those things where I would read a page and I'd be like, what did I just read? And then I'd have to go reread the entire page, and I'd be like, what did I just read?
who the heck is Tom Bombadil? What are the Barrow Downs?
No, I like Lord of the Rings, but I could not, for the life of me, get through those books.
There are a lot of books that I'm never gonna fuss with, but I actually did with those.
Congrats.
Thanks. I don't know that I'll ever read them again, but I also have the I don't know. I don't necessarily want to claim that it's an ornery attitude, because I feel that it's correct. That there are books that are considered classics that don't deserve that, so I'm not going to read it.
Spill the beans. Like what?
Well, okay, Anna Karenina. Why is that a classic? Maybe it deserves to be a classic. Maybe I haven't given it enough of a chance. But some of these books that maybe it's dark, dirty, whatever, like, I don't want to spend my life force on this, even though it's supposed to be deep. And I'm willing to delve into dark topics. So I guess it just depends on what's resonant with me. But you're never going to read every book in the world. So why waste your time on something that is a classic, but you don't care about it, unless you really think that by pushing through you're going to get something valuable out of that. So anyway.
Nice. That's your hot take.
Okay. She says after watching 500 versions of Alice with Jonathan. I'm not going to spend my life force energy on Anna Karenina. But I will talk to you about the Czechoslovakian Alice in Wonderland that was really weird.
I don't blame you. Did Anna Karenina ever have tea with a Mad Hatter? No.
I don't know. I didn't read the book.
I read the book either, but I doubt as well.
I don't even know what it's about. All I know is it was supposed to be depressing.
She committed suicide, as far as I know. So you can edit that. You can edit that part out. But you know,
spoilers for a however many 100-year-old.
Yeah,
book.
if you don't know by now, then
you just saved us a couple hundred pages.
Yeah, you had your well, and I started reading War and Peace, and then my little proud self, I found out that somebody else around my age was reading, and it's like, well, that lost its luster for me. This is supposed to be unique, me reading War and Peace.
Charlie Brown, penis movie.
Yeah, no, and then there are others like, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. There are other classics, quote unquote classics. It's like, I adore that.
That's a hot take.
I adore that story. I've read that probably at least three times, and I know that that's slightly controversial, even though it shouldn't be. Anyway, did we want to talk more about Wishbone.
But Wishbone, nah.
We covered it. It was good.
We covered it. It's a dog. There's stories.
Oh, the dog. Little soccer. His little outfits. I wonder if he has, like, great grandchildren now or something.
I don't think he's been gone that long.
Let's see how many generations of
I
dog.
think he died in 2001. What's the average lifespan?
Well, the little dog like that, I could see it being 15, 20 years or something, depending on the breed. But if they're old enough to have, okay, getting super technical, if each generation started having puppies young, and I don't know how many greats I just said.
Yeah. I think it was a little too many.
There's nothing about a lineage on his Wikipedia page, so.
Nobody in the AKC.
Just says he was born in 1988 and died in 2001.
Died a star.
So, like, 13-ish years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose that's probably roughly average.
Depending on the breed and the...
He's a Jack Russell Terrier, and he's a little dog, so I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
I would have expected longer, but okay.
There's all the stress from doing all these shows.
Worked to death. He only pretended to enjoy it. That wagging tail was a stress response.
50 episodes of this with the... I mean, it gets to you, I assume.
No, it was the retirement that did him in. What was his purpose after that?
That's true.
I don't know.
A 2024 Italian study on Jack Russell Terriers found a life expectancy of 8 years for the breed.
Oh, okay.
Compared to
So
10
he
years
was pretty
overall. So
old.
he
That is
outlived a lot
ridiculous.
of his
I
peers.
expect that from a big breed, not a small breed. What the heck?
Well, it also says that due to their use in hunting in the U.S., the Jack Russell is prone to contracting skunk toxic shock syndrome.
That's a disease? Huh.
Apparently.
Don't tell my dad about it. He already has a phobia of skunks. Because he knew this girl who thought it was a kitty in school, and then she had to have rabies shots.
Oh,
and
wow.
so now ever since then, he's like, heck no.
Do Joe and what's the girl's name, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Do they ever, like, is there ever romantic interest between them
No.
in the show, or
No.
at all?
No.
I've only seen like 3 episodes.
See, one of the things that I don't know, actually, because maybe they did, but I have this childhood memory. I don't know why I liked this as much as I did, because there's this episode with Demont, and I think he gets embarrassed because I don't know if Wishbone pulls down his pants or bites him in the bum or what. Either way, somewhere in there, he is humbled. And then it's just, I felt like there was this chemistry that started to happen between Demont and Samantha.
Sam.
Yeah, and
I see.
and
So you don't want to ship Joe and Sam.
and
I see. I see. Makes sense now.
I for some reason I liked that, and it stuck with me.
All right, there we go. Hashtag Demos and Sam.
Yes,
I'm sure there's a
yes, yeah,
Samant.
Samant.
Demantha.
That sounds like some Harry Potter demon or something.
What are you going as, Demantha?
I'm sure there's a what do you call it, a fandom somewhere with this, so don't worry, I'm sure you're not
A
alone.
very small. I have no idea. I don't. Why did that even stick in my head?
They must have done it good.
Is it like? Is it the whole bad boy thing? I don't know.
Hey, enemies to lovers is a popular trope, apparently.
So there you go. That's what happened.
Okay,
They
that's my
like
answer.
they
Thank
like
you.
stared at each other one time in a friendly
That's all
way.
you need.
I can't even remember. There might have even been a little lip bite, like, "Oh, hey, you're cute, and I like you." I don't know.
I feel like you're imagining this, because I feel like I would remember that.
Jonathan's like, this never.
No, there was definite chemistry.
There's-
I mean, it's possible that something completely went over my head as a kid, so...
I didn't realize that it was platonic, and I just turned it into a romance in my head. It never went. It's not. I don't think it ever went anywhere. It was just like, oh, we're noticing each other. Anyway,
Well, there goes my question of the Joe and Sam relationship, which I guess never happened either.
Yeah, I don't remember anything with them.
Hmm.
One thing that stuck out to me watching this again now as an adult was, like, watching this as a kid, I thought this was just so exciting, so tense, this race to find the prize.
Well, cheaters didn't prosper and fear was overcome.
Like, everything about this scavenger hunt just seemed like the coolest thing to me.
It was done very well.
It was, and I don't think we did anything like this as a kid. So it just seemed like such a cool idea.
There was a lot of effort put into that scavenger hunt, definitely.
There was.
Well, and winning a $100 gift card in the 90s.
Yeah.
Heck, I'll take it now, much less.
Yeah, what would it be now? 500 or something?
Probably not quite that much, but...
Well,
That would be a scavenger hunt with a murder involved. If it's $500. And then Poirot would have to come in the case and solve it or something. I wonder if... I feel Wishbone's a show that I could see them, like, rebooting.
I heard that
but
they
I
were
think-
going to make a movie, but I have not heard
Yeah, I was
anything
gonna
other
say
than
that too, yeah.
announcement.
but how do you do that with all the different stories? Like, just
Yeah, with
pick...
the movie, it's like you have to pick one, so I feel
Well,
a show would be better.
They had a movie, like, it ended with a movie, Wishbone's
Yeah.
Dog Days of the West, and they chose several short stories by O. Henry to do for that. So I feel like if you want to keep doing the story thing, pick an author who wrote short stories and then just do a bunch of them for the movie. Or you could go really in detail on one story.
And could you maybe use a smooth fox terrier, because I have a soft spot for those? Just a
And you
thought.
got to give him a paw print on the ear because that's iconic.
A paw print
All
on
in the
the...
contract.
Yeah, Wishbone had a paw print on his ear. It looked like a little paw print on his ear.
I'll be honest, I did not notice that.
Okay. Like, naturally?
No, I don't think
Oh.
so.
I remember, like, he had little spots, didn't he, on the one ear?
Yeah, but they were in the shape of a paw print.
Okay.
I was obsessed with Wishbone. I know these things.
He's like, trust me, bro. I think Wishbone also was my introduction to the word wishbone.
Did you grow up yanking at wishbones?
No, I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, no, that at Thanksgiving you haul out the wishbone and you pull on it with another
Yeah.
person, and whoever gets the bigger end of the wishbone that breaks off gets their wish.
Yeah, that's what I learned later on in life. But I was like, oh, I thought Wishbone was always just a dog or something.
So you've never experienced that sensation of ripping apart a tiny bone with another human being on the false pretense of getting your desire.
No, that opportunity never came across my way.
You've still lived, trust me.
Barely, just barely.
Do you have any weird traditions that I should know about? That are...
None that I can think of.
Yeah, because
Think
they're
the,
normal to you.
That is true. We don't do weird stuff else. But yeah.
I also really liked Demont's weird little cousin.
The voice of a good character from The Christmas Carol of 1997. Of course, how could we not love him?
I did not remember Demont having a cousin, so he must not have made an impression on me as a kid. But watching him now, I just thought he was so weird and hilarious. Like, talking about how he's an alien, but not like in the movies. This is what they really look like. I had a friend that saw one and then it gets cut off.
Nice.
That's the makings of an interesting adult there.
Where would he be now?
Writing conspiracy theories online and I don't know.
Yeah.
Working
His own blog.
working at a feed store or something, I don't know. You know what they don't want you to know. Anyway,
But I met an alien and he told me.
yeah.
I guess one thing I'll say is there a story you wish Wishbone had covered that they never did?
Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah, I should have guessed. I could see him as the Mad Hatter.
That one would be hard to do because
He's a boy.
I don't remember him. I don't think he ever played a girl character.
But it would have been one of those things where he could be side.
But that was the one that was harder because she's alone for most.
Oh, he could have been like Lewis Carroll narrating it, or
maybe,
like out in the boat with the girls.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's true. That would be a way to approach that one.
Yeah.
Have they done a Christmas Carol?
I don't think so.
He'll be a Scrooge.
Yes, that would have been a good one. Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they could do when they come back to make the movie. It could be a Christmas movie.
There we go. If y'all are listening to this, the filmmakers of this movie, here's your idea. See Jonathan. Maybe Captain Nemo, if they haven't done that one. 20,000 Leagues, I mean.
Yeah. It's probably too dark, but War of the Worlds would be interesting. Just to see how they would approach that.
Have they done Shakespeare with him?
They did... Which one is the one with the fairy?
Is it called The Fairy? Is it
The Tempest? Because he was
Ariel,
that's who he played in that one.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, is that a girl character?
Yeah, that's a girl character.
Because I think that's who he played. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did sometimes play girl characters.
I guess the last question I have is, what is your guys' favorite Wishbone episode, since you guys have seen most of them? Or are these your favorite ones?
I did not have his obsession, so while I'm watching these and it's like, oh yeah, I can remember things from them, I feel like it seemed kind of brave that they did Phantom of the Opera, and it's probably the cutest version ever. But I definitely have a new appreciation for the Rip Van Winkle one, just how adorable it is. So let's list that as a favorite.
Nice.
Yeah, I suppose, that the Time Machine is more like, yeah, I remember that nostalgia, whatever that creeped me out as a child, rather than...
You loved it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked the flower, I think.
I'm trying to... I feel like the one that I remember the most is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, because I watched it the most. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really... remember.
I would be curious to see that episode again with DeMont having his change of heart and everything. And it would be interesting for me to watch more of the series and have more moments of, oh yeah, I remember that. But
I probably will do another one of these episodes in the future, because there's so many versions of things covered in Wishbone that I feel like at some point, if I'm between series that will both be covered, then I'll do a couple episodes and maybe pick one random one that I probably will never do a series for every version ever on.
But probably with less nostalgic rambling.
Well, it depends on who we're talking to, but yeah, probably. Although if it's us three again, then...
Well, we've already covered a lot.
We're talking about different PBS stories.
We've covered a lot of territory tonight.
Yeah, but we cover everything.
Do you remember Big League Chew?
Yeah.
I should also mention the movie. The movie I also watched a lot.
Oh, okay, the Wild West one.
Yeah, Wishbone's Dog Days of the West. But I feel like if I have to pick a favorite right now, not having watched the series in years and years, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is one of the ones that just comes back to mind the most, because I watched it so many times. Because when that aired, I had already been obsessed with Wishbone for a while, and then it was such a huge deal that they were coming back with new episodes. And this was the first one back, and it was an hour-long special, and it was just such an event that I was so excited about it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I guess I am covering my favorite one right now.
There we go. It's just downhill from here, sadly.
Probably not. I have a feeling that whenever I come back, whatever I watch, it will trigger more memories, because if I didn't watch every episode, the ones that I did watch, I watched multiple times because I was so obsessed with this show.
This was your show, yeah?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that will be all for today. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and...
Oh, we're happy to make your dream come true.
Dreams really do come true.
No, ever since I started doing every version ever, I've just had the thought in the back of my mind,
Wishbone.
Yeah, covering Wishbone, and also wondering, is Wishbone part of the reason why I love seeing different versions of things?
Oh, there we go. There's the origin story of the John cast.
I mean, it could be, but like
Wishbone.
there were a few things that Wishbone covered where I would have obviously seen another version of it. So it could have started here, being interested in seeing how different filmmakers take the same material and do something totally different with it, including putting a little dog in the lead role.
Very cute little dog. Who likes cookies?
and not sharing them with Ellen.
Well, he was all over those Halloween. He wanted the Halloween cookies too.
Oh yeah, that was another scene that I definitely remembered. Him sprinting home as the cookie slowly, in very slow motion, flew through the air. It's like either he had a premonition or that cookie was just in some other time wavelength.
Which episode is it?
Sleepy Hollow, at the beginning when he's
Sleepy
walking
Hollow,
through the
okay.
town and he hears or
yeah,
senses
yeah.
that Ellen has dropped a cookie.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that will be all for this very random episode, ostensibly about Wishbone, but apparently about every PBS show we ever watched.
Yeah.
Do you remember Julia Child? No.
I didn't watch her.
Really?
Did you watch Bob Ross?
No. I
Oh.
don't remember if Julia Child ever even showed well. I mean, maybe it was like after, like in the nights or the Saturdays, I'm not sure.
If you are ever troubled in your heart and you can't fall asleep, find Bob Ross. He's there for you. You don't need to take up painting. Just watch his little afro and yeah.
Interestingly enough, his grave is not far from where I live. So, I mean, I think it's only like half an hour away. He's buried in like West Orlando, I think. So,
Okay, so now you need to watch an episode and it'll have meaning and maybe you'll want to visit. That's kind of odd. That's kind of uncomfortable.
I think for me, like, celebrity graves is like a thing I'm into. So, I think that's like our only celebrity that we have in or near Orlando that is like really big.
So there's a little road trip for you after you've watched some Bob Ross.
There you go.
You could bring a picnic.
Sure. I don't know if he'll join in, but sure.
If he does, let us know.
Oh, I think I might be running if that happens, but sure.
Maybe just leave the picnic if that happens.
Yeah.
It was a
Forgot
gentle
his
soul,
favorite.
though. You know, you don't have to fear Bob.
I'll take your word for it.
On that thought.
Well, until next time, do you want to let people know where they could find you if they would like more from you, Mark?
Sure. I got 2 blogs. One's the Animation Commendation at theanimationcommendation.com. I do some animated film reviews, top 13 lists, and I also host my own animation-themed game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Animation Edition, on there. Jonathan's been a contestant a few times during my tenure there, so check me out there. And I also have my live-action Disney project at myliveactiondisneyproject.com, where I'm trying to watch and review every single theatrically released live-action Disney film ever made. I've been doing that for over 11 years now, I think, and I'm still going. So check me out there. Thanks.
And coming soon, Celebrity Grave Road Trip.
With Bob Ross. With or without pictures. I make no guarantees.
It could be a whole thing if you. Oh yeah. I'll let Jonathan continue signing off by saying that I'm
Sorry, Jonathan.
I'm Sarah, his cousin, and I'm on Redbubble, Etsy, Society 6. On Etsy is Turnip Wilson Creates, and on the others as Turnip Wilson. And I'm working watercolors and pen and ink, and have a variety of products, whimsical and realistic paintings, mostly. Okay. Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me for this very random discussion. I'm sure we'll be back in the future for more. So we'll see you then.
More random discussions, I could promise.
Probably. Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.